万门大学的小伙伴们，大家好，我是兰斐利博士，是莱特研究大学的应用神经科学的教授。今天巴博士会给我们讲关于冲突。那么冲突是一个很重要的话题。我在北大读博士的时候，我们是使用神经科学的一些手段来研究人的认知。那么冲突在认知神经科学是一个很重要的话题，因为有一个脑区专门为了解决认知冲突，叫做 ACC。那么 ACC 它会加工不同的冲突，比如说看一个红色的字儿但是它写着是黄色，在这个时候就是这个脑区会加工。但今天巴博士他会讲关于人跟人之间的冲突，而且不同解决冲突的方式的一些优点和缺点。我希望大家上巴布老师的课会注意一点，就是巴布老师的一个很重要的因素是，我们人是可以改变的。在他的书《秩序改变才是真正改变》，他帮我们去了解如何去改变，而且如何去调整我们的生活方式，来有更好的生活，更好的自己。我们一起去听巴布老师讲如何变得更好的自己。
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Bob Wright, Professor of Transformational Leadership and Coaching at the Wright Graduate University for the realization of human potential. And if you are ever going to make real your potential, you're going to have to deal with this next subject because it's everywhere, all the time. Much unrecognized except in extreme form. It's conflict. Life happens with conflict. Conflict for competing resources. Conflict about which movie we're going to watch, which restaurant we're going to go to, who's going to lead, who's going to follow, who's going to have the last say in a conversation or an argument. Conflict is happening all the time. And I want to speak up on behalf of conflict. It gets a bad name. Not only is it everywhere all the time and unavoidable, but most people don't understand conflict. So one of the things we want to talk about that we go into deeply in our book, The Heart of the Fight, A Couple's Guide to 15 Common Fights, what they really mean and how they can bring you closer. We want to understand what's going on when there is conflict. There are two primary concerns in all conflict: relationship and outcome. Some people are concerned primarily about relationship and not much about outcome. We call them pleasers. Some people don't care about relationship, they don't care about outcome. We call them avoiders. Then we have certain people that compete. And they don't care about relationship, they just want to win their argument. They want to win whatever contest they're in. They're competitors. Some people are kind of in between. We call them negotiators. But if you have a high concern for relationship and a high concern for outcome, then you are a synergizer. And we're going to talk about these a little bit. In the United States, there's a term that's very commonly used but little understood. It's called win-win. That means whenever we have conflict, you win and I win. But most people don't understand it. And they don't understand how hard it is to truly come up with win-wins. Now, some of you heard me talk about pleasers and you thought, well, that's terrible. Or you thought, yeah, that's good. Or avoiders, most of you thought, well, that's not so good. Others thought competitors, yes, that's what I should be. Or others thought, no, we should negotiate. Or no, we should synergize. The answer is no. Not one of them is always right. There are other variables to consider. The amount of time and the amount of skill and how important the issue is. So, sometimes I'm going to be a pleaser. Now, normally I'm a pretty heavy competitor, but when I'm in China and I don't speak the language, I'm going to work harder to please people, even if I think they're wrong. I can't have a meaningful conversation with them. I can't do much of anything. So I'm going to try and make friends. Now, I tend to be pretty friendly, but I'm going to be even more friendly because I'm afraid. And I know that I need them to have the outcome that I want to have. Now, that's called lose-win. I may lose on an outcome to win on the relationship. Now, in many marriages, there are a lot of problems because when one pleaser and one competitor come together and the pleaser submits over and over and over and over and over and over again, they are going to build up resentment. Because if the problem is going to repeat over and over again, even though it doesn't seem major, pleasing doesn't work. Remember, the pleaser loses on outcome to win on relationship, but sooner or later, that costs them self-esteem. Sometimes things just don't matter, and it's not worth competing, and it's not a relationship that matters, and so we avoid. We call that lose-lose, and we call pleasing lose-win. I lose in outcome to win in relationship. The competitor is a win-lose strategy. They win in outcome, but they lose in relationship. There are times when we have to compete. If the consequences are serious, we must learn how to be competitors. We must be able to stand up for ourselves and displease other people. That's the win-lose scenario. If it's going to be a serious consequence or something that happens over and over and over again, we may want to do that. But if it happens over and over and over again and the consequence isn't very serious and it doesn't take much time, we may want to negotiate. You take this one, I'll take that one. We'll do a little of this and a little of that. But negotiation over a long time with something that's going to repeat over and over and over again ends up with two people unhappy. Not always the right thing to do. But I took my car in the other day and they put a new air filter in, and I had just put a new air filter in my car not long ago. When I looked at the bill and I saw that they had put the air filter in, I said, I didn't ask you to do that air filter. I just put one in. It was brand new. Well, the cost was not high, and I wanted to get out of there. And so what I proposed was, I'd tell you what, I'll cover the cost of the filter, you cover the labor, and let's call it even. And he said, yeah. Sometimes I might see that they did something I didn't want done, but I'll avoid it because I don't want to pressure the relationship or I'm in a hurry. Remember, time is a big variable here. Sometimes you're in a hurry and avoiding lose-lose is the way to go. You lose on that issue because you have to get somewhere else. Now, so we have lose-win. I lose in relationship. I lose in outcome to win in relationship. Lose-lose, I just avoid. I have win-lose, I compete. I push to get my outcome. I have win some, lose some in my negotiating. Now, let's talk about synergizing. A high concern for relationship and a high concern for outcome. Most people think that they are synergizers. They are not. They are generally either pleasers, avoiders, or negotiators. In order to be a synergizer, I must be able to fight for outcome and insist on your satisfaction. And you must be able to fight for outcome and insist on my satisfaction. That's why there's so much conflict in our world, is we tend to think that either you win or I win. The interesting thing with synergy is that when we really are willing to engage fully in our own outcome, yet we want to stay in relationship with each other, then we find solutions that neither one of us could have come to on our own. So synergizing is actually the source of creativity. But remember, in one of our earlier seminars in the series, we talked about the fact that this takes a great deal of skill. And it takes a great deal of time. And we don't always have time to do that because we said earlier that 75 to 85% of the planet spends more of their time avoiding rejection than going for what they want. That means synergy isn't really going to happen. What they're going to be doing is pleasing or avoiding or negotiating. There is no right or wrong in this model. There is a time and a place for each one. If you have the time and it's important and you have the skill, then win-win synergy is it. If the relationship matters more, you don't have the time or you don't have the skill, then you please. If it doesn't really matter, you avoid. If it's something that's not going to be a problem long term, you negotiate. But there are those times when you must be able to compete for an outcome. But don't forget what we talked about when we talked about the rules of engagement. When you're in relationship, accentuate the positive so that you're creating a firm foundation for creative conflict resolution.